live already. Okay, guys, we are live, and this is Carla from MindPlore and MindPlore with Carla and Friends, and everyone should be unmuted. Huma, please go out and start your device all over again and come again, because we can't hear you. Okay, thank you. Okay, and we're talking about communication. Do we respond or do we react? Huma, you need to go out, please, and come back. Okay, having said that, we're talking about communication, whether we are reacting or are we responding to it. I admit in the past few days, I've been dealing with a lot of things, and sometimes I remember to speak and relate to it, and sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I get very involved with it and I am reacting, and people are like, why are you saying that? I don't get it. You're not listening to me. This is something we all do at some point in time, no matter what. We're all human. And what we need to do is begin to respond more than react. And that happens in time. It happens with practice. It happens with listening to what we are saying. But more importantly, I always say this in the English show, we only can speak what we know. We only can learn by listening. And that's what we need to do, begin to do more. No one is perfect at it, but we need to improve that. And Kamran, I would really appreciate it if you could give me your comments on this.
Thank you so much, Carla. It's wonderful to meet friends like Victor and Pastor Billy and Shivali now for the second time, most probably. I'm very happy to be here. I will want to respond to your request as opposed to react. And in so doing, I need to be extremely conscious of what am I saying and what are the likely consequences of that. And the moment I adopt the habit of consequential thinking, I would become more responsible, as a result of which I would be responding more than reacting to my old habits and patterns that I've been accustomed to. So I have a feeling that this topic is of great importance. You will see a lot of people reacting to situations out of habit, and those habits have been formed from childhood up to now. Unconscious to us, we've hypnotically acquired a lot of things in life. Our preferences, our choices of color, our priorities, they're all largely programmed without us even knowing. And I feel that this is where being in a state of higher consciousness will enable us to determine the best way forward, the most appropriate thing to do in a given situation, no matter how volatile or critical it may be at that point in time, to take a few deep breaths and ask oneself the question, what does this situation demand? How do I respond to it? What are the likely consequences of it? And just that little pause can make the difference between hell or heaven. And this, I feel, is the point that I would like to float at this stage. And I'd love to listen to Victor and Pastor Billy and Shivali. And of course, I won't bother you, Carla, because I know you want us to be the ones talking.
I want you talking, but if you have a question or you have something you want me to address, This is, you do it. You don't worry about
Sure, sure,
anything.
sure.
So address it.
No, I'd like to hear from Victor, for example. What are his thoughts on reacting and responding, and what is his personal experience? For instance, how often is he reacting, and how often is he being responsive or responding to situations? And what are his thoughts on the subject?
And can I ask you, did you introduce yourself, Kamran?
I think Shivali and Pastor Billy and Victor have met me before, so I did
But
not.
people watching have not met you.
All right. Yes, of course. The
Yes.
audience who are listening in right now in their multitudes all across the globe. My name is Kamran Z, Rizvi, as you can see in the window. I have a background in learning and development. My interest is in the field of leadership development in all spheres of life, whether one is a student, a member of a family, a social activist, a manager in an organization, or a social project of sorts. Any human endeavor demands leadership of a certain quality, of a certain kind. And I feel that it's a lifestyle. So that's something I teach. And of course, communication is a very important subset of that. And it's a skill that needs to be acquired. It's not common sense. Common sense is not common practice. And communication is at the heart of good and effective and inspiring leadership. So that's a brief introduction. I've been in this business for 30 years. I'm based out of Islamabad, Pakistan, and I work across the world whenever required. COVID, of course, the 2 years that we've had put us at bay when it came to physical travel, but thanks to digital possibilities, we've been connected throughout.
Great. Thank you for doing that. Okay, Victor, what do you have to say about this topic?
It is so interesting that your introduction mirrors mine without all the credentials. I have traveled from being a mindless glob of human being to being the person that you see in front of you. I have aspired from not being a good communicator to being a good communicator. And before I say anything more, I'm going to remind you of something. A vampire cannot suck your blood out until you invite him in the house. And you asked me to say something, so I'm going to be saying something. Just want to know because sometimes what I say is infectious, sometimes it grabs you by the throat, other times it go, wow, that makes sense. And before you know it, you're an acolyte. And of course, that's my goal in life. I tend to respond more than react. And I believe that one of the main reasons that is true is that when I'm alone, when I'm not talking to anyone, I'm thinking about the broad things in life, the broad concepts, the love, the hate, the good, the bad. I'm thinking about those sort of things, and I'm deciding how I feel about those sort of things. So I carry around these thoughts that many describe as lofty thoughts, but these lofty thoughts allow me to be ready for any communication that comes my way. In fact, if I were to be honest, I would say, and I am being honest, is that I accept the fact that I'm a human and I have frailties, and I accept the fact that I make mistakes sometimes, and I accept the fact that I make big mistakes sometimes. But I also understand how powerful it is to be able to forgive myself. So these times when I'm alone, I forgive myself for the things that I've thought about that I did that I didn't want to do, and then I develop the fortitude to move forward. Sometimes people get triggered by certain remarks, and no matter how much they want to respond, they end up reacting. So my time alone, I spend my time rubbing those triggers raw so that I'm not triggered. Because if I want to influence you, if I want you to attack your problems successfully the way that I attack my problems successfully, I can't be triggered by what you say. I can't afford to be hurt by what you say because a wounded animal always reacts. So, in terms of responding and reacting, some people I know tell me I live in a dream world because I see myself as someone that responds to overwhelming majority of the time. But even if that's a mistake, it's a mistake that I can forgive myself for.
Thank
Wow.
you.
And
you.
Victor, brother Victor, I want to know if you've read all those books behind you in that bookshelf. And I see the ladder. I mean, how far up does that go? I mean, like a three. I see the ladder on your left, our right. You know, how far up does that?
I have read many books, and most of them are nonfiction.
Okay.
However, in the interest of transparency
Yes.
and avoiding the tendency to create an impression that's not true, I must confess that that is a picture of my background. It creates the exact impression I wanted to create. So I don't say, "Hey, I've read all these books," but I just leave it up there and let people draw their own conclusions.
Well, thank
Billy,
you.
you exposed
You just responded. You didn't react. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. All right. Very good. I love it. All right. Shivali, let's hear from you.
Okay, Pastor Billy, what do you have to say about that?
Well, hey, you know, I'm a pastor, so my number one goal is to listen to people. And so, you know, I always go by this great influential anatomical lesson. Here's an anatomical lesson. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we've all heard this 150 times in our lives. So I want to listen twice as much as I talk. So that's I believe it's a sign from God. I'm just by way of introduction, if people don't know me, I'm an international humanitarian. I work in about 18 war zones, helping widows and orphans. I'm a follower of Jesus Messiah. And so I just got back from Ukraine. I was there for 2 weeks listening to people. Why did I listen? Because I wanted to know what their needs were. And one of the medical directors of one of the humanitarian organizations, actually in Lviv and Kyiv, they said 80%. I mean, listen to this, 80% of the goods that they had received in their warehouses were goods that they could not utilize. And I said, well, what do you need? And they gave me a list. And now I've come back to the US and I'm purchasing those needed items and then shipping back. So that's basically what should I say? That was a lesson to me in listening, in responding, not reacting. Okay, there's a war going on in Ukraine. And if you react, then you're probably going to send the wrong things. But if you listen and respond, then you're probably going to send what people in Ukraine really need. And, you know, that's on the macro level, but on the micro level, I always ask myself, and I say this to my bride of 42 years, am I talking too much? Because I have a tendency to talk too much. And I am learning, and I'm going to be quiet in a minute, Carla.
No, you're fine. I just thought that was so funny.
Well, you know, if I could use another anatomical illustration, you know, I have diarrhea of the mouth and constipation of thought. And I want I want to be a better listener. So, and that's how we learn about the needs of people. I mean, everybody has needs, whether they're financial, spiritual, psychological, emotional. We all have needs. So how do we, as a pastor, as I sit with people, how do I know their needs? Not by me talking and providing solutions, but by listening and by responding and not reacting. So I'll turn it over to Shivali for her thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been listening to all of you. I'm going to ask a question to Victor, but before that, I've got a question ready for Victor. You see, taking cue from Carla when she says that, oh, she has been reacting. See, reacting is human, okay? It's okay. It's absolutely fine to react, okay? Now it comes to response. Response is a skill. You know, like I remember last time Carla says that, like I was telling that, oh, everything sounds very lofty and very, you know, high-ended. But how do you propose to teach a person? Well, it's a skill which each one of us on daily basis is kind of learning and honing it. There's nothing called perfection in it. And secondly, if I talk about myself as a coach, as a trainer, and being a holistic healer, this what you know, Reverend said just now. You know, listening to the other person is very important for me. If I want to really help someone, I need to be an excellent listener first. And for that, again, I would say I have made a journey in it. It's not happened in one fine day. It's taken me years to develop that skill, because you need to be patient. It's very easy to react, you know, and it is natural also. We react to all kinds. There could be any kind of trigger around us, something which is, you know, maybe related to our past, you know, and that person who's speaking to us in a particular situation is reminding us of something of our past. And so we are reacting. And I think over here, you need to be patient. If someone has reacted, then the other person needs to be patient enough. His response will be one of patience. So it's not that I'm reacting and responding to myself. I'm doing it with vis-a-vis with someone else around me. It could be one person, it could be two or many. So we need to be patient with each other. This is of utmost importance. So I have a question for Victor. When, you know, he sounded, you know, I was really wondering, you know, because he sounds, you know, the perfectionist at times. You know, he makes it sound like that, you know. I think that's his trick. You know, that is his, you know, way of triggering a response in us. So my question to him is that if you are what you are saying, that, you know, like most of the time you're responding, you're spending time alone and trying to figure out things, please give us some tips as to how to become like that. Because I feel as a human being, I will react. And I'm not ashamed of it at all.
There's no reason to be ashamed of it, and the fact that you have now been introduced to the idea that maybe there's this person that's alive that responds more than I do, just the fact that you have thought that and given me the impression that you aspire to be that, the way that the mind works is that resources and ways for you to do that will be attracted into your life, and you'll know them when you see them. The belief that we have really determines what shows up in our life, and many of us believe by osmosis. When I say that I spend the time alone, I am seeding or planting the thoughts that I want to embrace. There are certain people, certain ideas that I have embraced over the course of time, and when I first embraced those ideas, it required effort. one of the ideas that I embraced was not talking so much. And as I embrace the idea of not talking so much, I see myself now, I behave in a manner where I'm not talking so much. And desiring to share what I think and how I believe with the rest of the world, I often get people to say to me what you just said to me, which is what I want. I want people to ask me how, because I believe that my gift to the world is this way of being, this way of managing, this way of coping. And even the people that we are talking to, even the people that we are trying to help, they too have an urge that I believe is the greatest urge of all human beings, which is the urge to contribute. And even though someone might need to hear what it is I'm saying, they long to contribute to the world themselves. At the moment I'm talking to them, they may have a need that maybe I can meet or cannot meet, but underneath it all, we all want to contribute more than anything else that we want to do. We want to contribute more than we want to get. And I know human beings get the characteristics put upon them as being selfish. And though we are all selfish, I feel my best, which is selfish, when I'm contributing. When I'm giving to somebody and I'm actually seeing the results, that's when I feel my best. So despite the idea that I want to be a responder, despite the idea that I want to have these lofty ideas, nothing feels good like feeling good. And that's only for me. None of you feel what I'm feeling. So if I aspire to have this euphoria that I'm experiencing, that can be characterized as being selfish, but again, if that's a problem, I'm just going to forgive myself for being too selfish.
Let me comment on that. I've had 3 very, very, very challenging days. And I kind of got into the challenges. Pastor Billy, we want to see you, not your hand. And I decided today, come what may, I was going to be happy. And when I made that decision, and believe me, I'm going back and forth and all that roughness is still going on. Once you make that decision and you put that in your awareness, that communicates to everyone around you. And we could start talking about vibrations and energy, and I want to keep it a little more.
Let's talk about it.
I'm sure we're going to get there, Victor. But I would like to hear what Huma, I don't think I say your name correctly, and could you please introduce yourself? We got her.
Energy.
We can't hear you.
It's in the settings. You have to go to your laptop, look at the settings and for the sound. Go click on the sound icon, and you will see a drop down. And you just want to click on the right option.
Okay, we'll see you in a moment.
May I just add a few thoughts based on Shivali and Victor's conversation just now? I think that the theme is reacting or responding in communication. And frankly, it's not perfection to say that one needs to be responsible in life. And responsibility is zero blame. All of us as human beings are responsible for the outcomes we produce around us. This is my personal belief. And I believe that in the context of relationships and working in a very challenging context, if I'm not acting responsibly, then I'm reacting. And yes, of course, as a human being, I make mistakes and I do react. And there's no shame in making mistakes. Yet at the same time, I feel that in order to grow, in order to build credibility, in order to inspire, in order to rally people around a cause, it is very important that one takes full responsibility for one's own actions. And it's only then that we will be responsive and according to the needs that we uncover through listening, as Pastor Billy has mentioned, and very, very important that Shivali also emphasizes. Listening is perhaps an action of responsibility. You're responsible, you're taking ownership for what you're listening to, and you are wanting to empathize and feel with the other person in order to help in a situation or even multiply the joy that you're experiencing. So I wanted that a texture of responsibility to be added to this conversation, because I've seen highly irresponsible conduct as well. And that irresponsible conduct is reacting and thoughtless. And it's coming from the subconscious. It's not coming from the conscious mind.
Yes, so it's a choice, basically, I think. It's a choice that we need to make consciously, actually.
Yeah.
It's a conscious,
yes. The choice. Yes. Thank you so much, Shivali. Absolutely.
Yes.
Can we hear Huma Tariq now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Huma's here. Come on. Share your thoughts.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Now I can communicate, react or respond, whatever.
Huma, can you do me a favor? Introduce yourself.
Yes. First, thank you for having me here, Carla. It's nice to see you all. This is Huma, as you can all see, and I have been working for Rehan Foundation on Rehan trainings. Our main focus is to literate Pakistan digitally and take them out of poverty and make them able to make at least 1 lakh rupees a month. So it's a little about myself. I like to read. I like to learn about mind sciences, and I like to paint also. So that's a little about myself. And I have been listening to the conversation and the humor of, you have got such a good panel, Carla, today. And this is my first time having here in MindPlore.
I know. And actually, Huma, I've been trying to get you for ages. It had to happen when you were not working for Rehan for a little while for me to get you here. I am thrilled to have you here.
Thank you for your patience, Carla. Now we have the same time zone, so it's easy for me to be available.
It makes it very, very easy.
Yeah.
Kamran, is everything okay with you? I know that you had an issue and may need to leave early.
Yes, thank you so much, Carla, for your understanding. And my friends, please continue enlightening our audience across the globe who are listening intently. I just had a commitment which came up last minute and I need to attend to it. And I'm happy that I could at least be part of the first 30 minutes. And Huma, thanks for taking over, because at least Pakistan is now represented. We have India, we have the United States. And Victor, where are you from?
Sacramento, California.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Pastor Billy, are you in Ukraine or in the United States right now?
Yeah. This is actually a live picture behind me. And I'm just responding. Okay, all right. So maybe I like exit, but I am just in from Ukraine and Iraq and Kurdistan, and I'm sitting in my very comfortable home in the People's Republic of Huntington Valley, which is where Carla beckons from. So we have that synergistic relationship going back in the day. So yeah, I'm home here and happy to be back from the war zones. And Kamran, we just appreciate you and we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And he says that to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
See
Cameron.
you.
Okay, let's get back to communication. And Pastor Billy, we are going to do that interview.
Yeah, great. Okay.
I did not forget.
Yeah.
So back to communication. And that was poor communication on my part because I have not updated you, and it's
just so everybody knows, Carla's referring that she wanted to interview me about my 2 weeks in Ukraine and all that. So that's what so I'm just responding to that. So with my live background behind me. So.
He'll keep on repeating this, Victor.
Yeah, Victor.
It's live, and we are live.
Victor, you're so perfect, and everything you say is so precise. I mean, we just have to, go after you for the things that you tell us. So.
Well, Victor is a Toastmaster, and this show is much different from any other show I've ever done. But that's true for all the shows. We've been on topic, off topic, and on topic again. I don't even know where to go right now.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about.
I haven't
reacting. Yeah, go ahead.
I have an idea.
Oh no!
I've just sent Huma a friend request, and she has a very interesting quotation on her page, and I'd love to know what inspired the quotation after I read it. It says, "The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute, and the man who does not ask a question is a fool for life." So, Uma, why don't you elaborate a bit about what inspired that quote? Or anything else about it that you want to share?
Yeah, definitely. I have a few things to say after listening to the conversations all you were having. Actually, what inspired me putting up on my wall is since childhood, we have been taught not to ask questions in the classroom, especially the culture I belong to. This is something when you ask question, what if somebody makes fun of you, or you will sound stupid, or everybody would make fun of you. So we stop asking questions, so we stop taking information, we stop listening, we stop getting more knowledge, hence the knowledge stops. That's how we we are dependent more on others. We stop taking our own decisions, we stop having more wisdom, and etc. So that makes me, and there are a lot of people who had the question, like let's talk about myself, not other people. I always used to think in the classroom or in my college or in university, I was so shy to talk to. I was so introvert. Like even today I have I have anxiety, social anxiety, just because I cannot ask question. People make fun of it. So it represents that this message is for all those people who feel that asking question is wrong. That's what my point is.
Okay.
And I think that happens often. I see that in the English show. People come and they want to talk and they don't understand what's being said. And then they don't say, I don't understand. I had a big thing happen last night with a school where I'm working with them to get ready to go live, and how are we going to do this, and we need to understand each other. And there's a very, very wonderful man, I know he's not watching now, I wish he was, who was supposed to be my English Urdu translator. He did not understand what I was saying, and I knew it. And I said to him, please tell me when you do not understand. And he said, how can I? There are all kinds of ladies here. He didn't put it in this words. I can't lose face with the ladies. I need to pretend I understand. And I was like, no, you don't. You're not helping me if you're doing that. And I have to admit, I was reacting to him more than I was responding, because I was totally, I can't do this like this. And it's not a good thing to do. Meanwhile, I'm teaching these ladies and a few men to speak in English, and they're not ready. They're not ready because they're not willing to say, I do not understand. I can't get into your head, Victor, and know what you're saying right now. Can't get into anyone else's head but my head. And that's the only place I can be. How do you respond to that, Victor? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm practicing thinking about what I say before I say it. Sometimes.
I'm afraid of what you're going to say now.
So sometimes I'm cocked, I'm perched, I'm ready to just deal with something, and sometimes I deal with it improperly. But in terms of you not being able to get into my head and me not being able to get into your head, I think that's irrefutable, and I think that's okay. And based on my experience with human beings, all of us have just a tad of self-doubt, and that self-doubt will eat us alive if we allow it to. What I have found between two human beings, generally speaking, both human beings are thinking that they are better than each other. In other words, when I meet you, Carla, there's this way subconscious urge that tells me that you're better than me. And then when you meet me, there's this little urge that's telling you that I'm better than you. And I think that part of the struggle of being a human being is reconciling that, because surely, that may be true in one or two cases, but in reality, nobody is better than anybody else. And that's one of the things that I seed into my thoughts when I'm alone, is that everyone is actually the same. Now, I came to that conclusion in a sort of humorous way because I was thinking about beef. No matter which cow it is, the beef tastes the same.
Right.
the beef tastes the same way. It doesn't matter if it's cow A or cow B. So that led me from that thought to thinking that probably the thought processes that we all carry around, that we filter everything through, is the only thing that makes us different from each other. And that at our core, where we live, the spiritual place where we spend our time, we're all part of this giant, big, all-encompassing spirit. And anything that makes us think less of ourselves or less than another person is just our own aberration. That's what I think of that.
Okay, Pastor Billy.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, and I'm going to use an expression that comes from my what should I say? My worldview, and being a Christian pastor. And there's an expression that we often use in the church, and it really goes to a teaching from the New Testament to exactly what Victor just said, is that we are all equal. It doesn't matter what we have in our 401k, and my 401k is now just an OK, or maybe just a K. And I have that. I have that dreaded condition, Mafunzalo. You ever heard of Mafunzalo? My funds are low. Yeah, Mafunzalo. So it doesn't matter. We often look up to people like, who's in the news today about buying Twitter, right? It's the gentleman that has $268 billion in his portfolio, okay? But, you know, Elon Musk is no different than any of us on this program today. Jeff Bezos, Imran Khan, you know, the Sultan of Brunei. And, you know, all these people, we're always looking up to them, or the Kardashians, or, you know, this person or that person. And, you know, the expression we use in Christian circles, it really comes from the book of James and the New Testament scriptures of James, where it says that we should not give preference to anyone, that we're all the same. And so the expression that I use, thinking of Jesus, Messiah, and the cross where he died, is that the ground is all level at the cross, that no one is better than anybody else. We're all the same. We all have our struggles. We all have our idiosyncratic behavior. If my bride of 42 years, Nancy, was on this call today, and I always say I've been in assisted living for 42 years, and that you know, people in America can understand that. I have been in need of assistance for 42 years, but I mean, she would tell you about, well, you know, my husband has some idiosyncratic behavior, and I won't go into that. But you know, so the ground is the ground is level. Nobody's better than anybody else, and that makes us all equal. And that's where I love to talk about what Dr. Martin Luther King talked about during his life is about equality. And it's not the color of our skin, it's the content of our character. And so when we think about that, then we're talking about communication and responding and reacting. I love to think about, I'm no worse than anybody else, and I'm no better than anybody else. And as a result of that, I can just respond in love. I can respond in grace, and I can respond in mercy. So who am I to be critical of others when, if you looked at my life and you could say, hey, Pastor Billy, you just were on a 40-day water-only fast. And you can't imagine the criticism I get. Well, because every year I do a 40-day water-only fast. I just came off yesterday after not having food, just water for 40 days. And people like pile on when I do this once a year. It's very interesting. And I say, hey, you know, it's okay. I can handle it. But in responding to that, when someone wants to criticize me, and I'll conclude with this, because I'm in the media a lot. I'm in a church with a couple thousand people every Sunday. And if anybody comes up and criticizes something I say, I just use two words. And people always ask me, well, you know, you're out there, Pastor Billy, you're on the edge. And as a result of that, you say a lot of things. And if someone criticizes you, how do you respond? And people, I think, my impression is they want me to go into, you know, the emanations of the penumbra, and they want me to argue about, you know, how many angels can dance and all that. And so what I say to people who want to criticize me, I just say two words: thank you. Thank you.
And actually, when you say thank you there, you're accepting them as they are, and you're learning something from them, and they are learning from you. And I have a question. What is a penumbra?
If emanations of a penumbra. So when there is a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, the penumbra is the ring that whatever planet or heavenly body is being obscured. The emanations of the penumbra, those are the spikes that are coming out from the eclipse. So it's actually an astronomical phenomenon. And I don't know, maybe Huma or Shivali or Victor can explain what an astronomical phenomena is. Anyway.
I think that's in Huma or Uma or whatever, help me know range of knowledge. Or am I getting people from Rehan Foundation confused? Go on.
Sorry, Carla, I did not get your question. You pronounced my name very well. It's Huma.
Huma. Well, everyone called you a different name. I didn't know if I had it right. The question is, can you explain a penumbra better to me?
I did not actually get what penumbra. I was trying to understand. It's related to solar eclipse something.
Yes.
And
solar eclipse or lunar
any
lunar
eclipse, any eclipse, yes, any eclipse when the heavenly body is getting eclipsed. So that part is dark, but the rest of the part which is merging out, the rays that you can see is the penumbra.
Oh, the outline of it?
Yes.
Yes. Because it cannot be covered. I mean, to us, to our naked eyes, it seems that it is being covered, but actually the object is much larger, right?
Yes.
So if the sun is getting eclipsed, for example, we obviously, from our aspect, the sun appears small, but it isn't. And this is one way you can check it out, because the penumbra, the rays which are coming out, shows that even though it seems it's completely covered, yet the rays are coming out, the emanations.
Interesting. I heard about it the first time.
Pastor, is that the thing that's behind the head of Jesus Christ in some pictures?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. They the emanations are coming out, yes. Right? Yeah, I mean that's more of a Catholic thing. I'm not Catholic, but yeah, it's just really from a natural perspective, it shows that to me at least, and I'm responding. It shows the glory of God in creation. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just when we look at the natural world, whether it's the microcosm and we look at the mitochondria, we look at RNA or messenger RNA, and then we jump from the micro to the macro and we see the wonder of the universe. And we know that the universe is never ending. I mean, when I'm looking at a blue sky right now, that sky never ends. I mean, if you think about that long enough, your head might explode. But, that's, and if we're talking about responding and reacting, for me as a pastor, I just respond with thanksgiving. I don't understand it. And think about that. A lot of times when we're with people, we don't understand their situation. We don't understand their background. We don't understand what they're going through. We don't understand all and most of the people I work with are broken people. And I don't often understand what they're going through. But yet on an emotional, spiritual level, I just want to respond to it and I want to listen and I don't react and I don't say to them, well, you need to get your life together. Well, maybe they can't get their life together. And so when I'm with people, my reaction is not going to be one of anger or judgment or criticism, but it's more of, okay, I want to hear your story and why you are in the place where you are today. So that would be on a personal level. On a broad level, when I look at the wonders of creation, I just say, thank you, God, for creating the universe. So there you go.
Yes.
You said something very interesting, and it brings me back to what I do with Rehan when I'm doing interviews. My interviews are not about me at all or my thoughts. They're about the people I am talking to. So people say, you mean I got to talk for 30 minutes? Huma, you're one of them. And I said, yeah, you're basically doing the talking. And the reason you are doing the talking is so I can learn from you. This whole experiment, and I've interviewed thousands of people by now, maybe not recently, but in the past I was doing more. And I'm still doing it. It's just a little challenge for me to do the scheduling right now. But in doing that, I'm not only learning about what they do, I'm opening up my mind to understand who they are. If someone told me I would be friends with a Muslim man 6 years ago, I would have laughed my head off. What do you mean? They're all terrorists. Why would I make a friend from Pakistan? And now my response is, why wouldn't I? They're very beautiful people. And you only know that by talking to people and listening to them without a judgment. Huma,
That characteristic, that
Yeah.
characteristic that the pastor has articulated, how accepting he is and how he listens with love, I find that to be characteristic of people who themselves has overcome lots of struggles. When you have been punched in the face, kicked in the teeth, rolled over by a steamroller, and lived to tell about it, I find that you are a lot more accepting of others who are not yet in that position. And the people who haven't had the experience, the people who are judgmental, the people who do pass judgment on others, I see them as growing, and eventually they will get to the place where they don't do that. Because I've done lots of mistakes. I can write a book like many of you on all the things I've done that's been wrong. I've been hurt an awful lot. I've experienced a lot of pain. Many of the pain I've experienced, I did it to myself. And now I find myself a lot more accepting of others' frailties. Because I don't know who said it, but there but for the grace of God go I. And the person that you see in front of you, the person that's mostly smiling, the person that's mostly accepting, the person who thinks he's funny, that guy is a product that's been molded and shaped and created over the last several years. I was thinking yesterday about 40 years ago. 40 years ago, I was kicked out of the Air Force. Really? And when I communicate that to people today, some people go, wow, it's something that they find unbelievable. But it is true. And communicating that is how I communicate that by being accepting of others, by learning in the book of Corinthians where it talks about love, because you come to see me, you're going to probably get some love. And like the man said, whether you need it or not, you're going to get it. So I appreciate the pastor as he talks about being able to accept, and not only accepting people, but being successful in communicating that acceptance. Because some people, they're just this far away from madness, and that just far away could be coming from you. Make sure that anybody who runs into you or who has a conversation with you, make sure that they are better than when you met them. And the book of Corinthians tells you how to do that.
But the whole thing of learning and understanding ourselves all comes from realizing, one, we are all united, and two, we're all diversified. And if we take a moment and stop yelling and screaming and pointing guns at people, What a beautiful world we could have. It's like a garden. There are tons of roses, but there's only one rose that's you. Shivali, you haven't said much, and then I'm going to go back to Huma. Huma.
Yes, I was actually listening to, yes, I was listening to what Reverend's pastor was saying, when he was referring to the church. I could relate to it very well, accepting. When God has shown his mercy and grace on everybody, he has created everyone equal, then who are we to judge? That's something we really need to understand. And compassion. See, compassion is the key. Most of the time, we are judging, not just others, ourselves also. So, therefore, we are reacting. So, I think the key to this is, the consciousness that we are having. And today, we are talking a lot about collective consciousness. Actually, it is coming from these beliefs, teachings, which we are getting from our scriptures, whether it's the Christian scriptures, whether it's our Vedic scriptures, whether it's the Islamic scriptures, they're all talking about the same thing. They're all telling us the same thing. So this voice of collective consciousness, which is guided more by reasoning and compassion, needs to kind of, I think, to become stronger. And I also agree with what Victor has said, that a person who has undergone the journey can only empathize with another person. And as you can see in the world today, those who are into spiritual teachings, preachings, helping, healers. I went into healings because first I wanted to heal myself. I thought that I'm a strong believer in spirituality, and I questioned God, that why have you chosen me? And today, 15, 20 years down the line, I realize that God has chosen me. He has shown so much of mercy on me. But today I can help others only because I had to undergo that journey. And that is the mission of my life. That compassion in me today is because I have undergone that journey. And today, when I look at people, for me, they are simple souls. It doesn't matter to me who they are, because I know all of us are children of God. So instead of reacting, that response would be, my response would be like, this is my way of responding to the world around me today.
Thank you. Huma, Huma. Which is the right one?
It's humor. It's humor.
I feel easiest with Huma.
Like humor.
But everyone else has been giving you another pronunciation. And I keep on thinking, Carla can be wrong. I can be wrong. I got to check this out. Go on, Huma.
So what I concluded from all this, that the problem occurs when we try to win the conversation. When we try to win the conversation, that's what I've been taught since childhood. It's deep rooted in our subconscious that, oh, I would respond this way, I'd respond to that way, which is actually reacting, is just because we want to win, to make ourselves better than the other person. This is what is a bad communication, and it lacks empathy. A void of empathy is a bad communication. So everybody communicates. Even no communication is also communication. Not responding is also a communication. Being rude or being quiet is also communication, because we communicate something. As Pastor said, all of us are same. So we need to take a proactive approach of where we are actually lacking. We react because something inside of us tries to communicate with us. Like if there's a discomfort of, for example, resentment, jealousy, anger, we need to take that emotion and talk to your emotion. What's the issue that's rooted deeply in subconscious, and start talking with the emotion. We actually judge others because we judge ourselves. there's a constant communication occurs with our own self, that which we reflect to others as well. So once we are not a good listener, we cannot be a good communicator. That's what I get from all this panel.
Now, were you thinking in that manner before the panel?
Yes, actually, I was a reactor. I used to react on different levels. I used to cry actually, because I got judgmental and I used to take everything on heart. So there came a point when one of my auntie, she did a therapy and counseled me in everything, and then I realized, and I read the book, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. That's that one. So there was first chapter was being proactive. There he said, see yourself as you see another person. Would you like that person? So at that time, it clicked me and realized that how would I see myself as a third person? Then from then on, maybe 5 or 6 years back, I started to rewire myself in a way that I was less offended. I no more feel offended because I was so judgmental with myself. There was a self-talk with myself of being so judgmental.
How do you feel now about yourself?
A lot better, a lot better. I'm still learning.
Well,
we all are. We all are. It's a continuous process.
Yeah. So I think self-talk and as Shivali said, consciousness and spiritual knowledge is required. A gap between your stimulus and your response. There should be a gap of few seconds so that you would know what would be the consequences of our response or of our reaction to the other person.
But I have one question. Can I ask Carla?
Of course, and then we do need to get ready to close.
Yes, like I would like any one of you, even Victor or Reverend or anyone can answer. Like when she said this, that we create that gap between the stimulus and the response as we are talking. Don't you think that takes away the spontaneity of the moment sometimes? Like each time, Victor, I think you can answer this very well. Like each time, if I have to think before reacting, then doesn't it take away the spontaneity? I'm human. I have my flaws. I can't be perfect. Only God can be perfect. I can't be perfect.
So, it does decrease a little bit of spontaneity, but having the knowledge and becoming aware of what you just said, perhaps combining that with my tendency to think about things when I'm alone, to think about how I feel about things, because I know how I feel about most of the common ideas, the common thoughts that people have, because I know how I feel about those things, it doesn't take me very long to respond. And the person that's listening, it may seem to them that I'm reacting, but I'm responding. So it does take away a little of the spontaneity. However, if you have to sacrifice spontaneity for clarity, I would say it's a worthwhile sacrifice.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here real quick. And I think it depends upon the situation. I mean, I like to use the word intentionality when we're talking about communication. And I always teach on intentionality, that every conversation I have is intentional. Every phone call, every email, every text, it's not like it's an OCD kind of thing. You do it with joy. But every conversation, this is my 4th meeting of today on Thursday. And my first meeting at 8 a.m. with my prayer and accountability person, Brother Jeff, very intentional. So I like to think that every conversation I have, probably with the exception of my my wife Nancy, my bride, as I call her, I love the spontaneity of our relationship. Okay, I can't go beyond that, but because Carla may ban me, but
I didn't say that's a
but spontaneity. I think the spontaneity that I have with my spouse, my bride, I love that. There's really not a whole lot of intentionality about that. But even my spontaneity with my kids and my grandkids, those are the ones that I'm spontaneous with. When we're doing something fun and just or my romance with my bride. Romance, there's a degree of spontaneity you have to have with romance, right? Although there's also a degree of intentionality. My bride's birthday was 2 days ago. Did I get her flowers? I forgot, but I spent a lot.
Now I understand that Facebook post. Go on.
Right, now you do. So forgive me, Lord. But anyway, I made up for it in other ways, and I'll let you read between the lines. Okay, that's it for me.
Do you have any final words, Victor? And please make it in less.
That was it. That was it.
What do you want to say?
Oh no, I've already had my final words.
Oh.
If there is such a thing.
With you, I don't think there is, but that's a whole other conversation, and it could also be a MindPlore topic. Do we always say everything we need to say? Actually, that is a good topic.
Huma.
Absolutely correct. Huma is absolutely correct. Huma.
Huma.
Huma. Huma. Huma.
WHOMA. Huma.
A lot of people here invest think it's been derived from human beings, so they call me Huma. Actually, I'm Huma. That's fine.
Okay, whoever you are, give your final words of knowledge.
Actually, I've said what I needed to say. I really like Shivali's question because sometimes it's a question, a genuine question that spontaneity is needed sometimes. So I just want to give a quick comment, and I think we need to see the pattern if this spontaneity is a habit or it just comes up only when needed. So if it's a habit, then we should work on it, go into the subconscious and know the reason, talk to ourselves, what needs to be changed. I think that could be done.
And I think what you say, what everyone has said, is very important. We're never going to be perfect at communication. I have a friend who I communicate often with, and I think he understands me, and nope, not at all. And yet we have a very strong bond. So communication goes in so many directions. And I think we're going to continue on communication, but with a different topic with it, because this is what MindPlore is about. Getting into our minds, getting into what we want to communicate to the world and how we can communicate it the best. And I really want to thank you guys. Kamran is gone, but I want someone to hear me say, thank you, Kamran. Thank you, Huma. Thank you, Pastor Billy. Thank you, Victor. And thank you, Shivali, for a wonderful, wonderful conversation that got me laughing in a situation that I thought, how am I going to get through this? And it was wonderful having all of you guys here because you did help me through. So we'll be back on MindPlore on next Tuesday. Topic unknown, panel unknown at this moment, but you will be seeing us on Tuesday. I'm not even sure of my location on Tuesday. Hopefully I'll be back home. And no, I probably won't, but we will talk again. Can we all wave goodbye?
Goodbye.
Who must stay for a moment? All of you stay for a moment.